A top Chinese diplomat Wang Yi is in New Delhi for a two-day visit, where he's holding a crucial meeting with Indian counterpart S Jaishankar. It's Mr. Wang's first trip to the South Asian nation, as both countries work towards rebuilding ties. Now, top of the agenda, long-standing tensions along their shared border. Mr. Wang will serve as China's special representative for a 24th round of negotiations on the so-called boundary question, which is scheduled for tomorrow.
中方愿同印方在既有共识的基础上，本着积极和建设性的态度，继续就上述议题深入沟通，共同维护好边境地区可持续的和平安宁。
The Chinese diplomat will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi after the border talks tomorrow to discuss the state of bilateral ties. Mr. Wang's trip comes ahead of the Indian leader's visit to China next week for the annual summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in Tianjin. Well, we have lots more. We're going live now to Ishan Garg in New Delhi. Tanyu Guan in Shanghai, but Ishan, to you first. Any real expectations to come out of what is now the 24th round of border talks, Yuan? Ishan, rather?
Well, we are expecting two key outcomes. First is potentially going to be any sort of development on whether India and China are going to resume their trade through land routes. Now, if this is an announcement does come through, it will mostly be a symbolic announcement. Indian Ministry of External Affairs has confirmed that talks are ongoing to resume trade through 4 land passes along the Himalayan borders. And if this is announced, it would serve as a reminder that there is some confidence once again building between Indian and the Chinese side. Now, India and China's trade is not really dependent on these land trade routes, but a resumption of trade would mark another step in these two nations' journey of coming closer together that we have seen in the past few months. India has already started accepting visa applications for Chinese nationals. A key pilgrimage route, the Kailash Mansarovar route, has been restarted. And so this is going to be one key outcome that we are expecting. The other is potentially going to be other confidence building measures. And some analysts are expecting that there might be some announcements made about the pullback of troops, which in technical language here would mean further de-escalation along the border. We would remember that both sides currently have tens of thousands of soldiers in the Himalayan region along their borders. So any development that suggests that tensions are reducing in terms of troop reduction directly on the border, that would be something to watch out for.
And Guan, it is the Foreign Minister Wang Yi's first trip in 3 years. What will he be wanting to walk away with?
Well, I'm really reading tea leaves here, of course, but judging from his timetable and the commentary on state media, it is safe to say he's here to further ease tensions and get the main stumbling block in Sino-India ties out of the way. That is, as my esteemed colleague in New Delhi stated, their long-running dispute over their shared border. After all, aside from being foreign minister, Mr. Wang Yi, as you mentioned, is also China's special representative on the China-India boundary question. And tomorrow morning at about 11 a.m. Delhi time, he's set to meet his Indian counterpart on the boundary matter. That would be the second such high-level meeting on the boundary question since border clashes, daily ones, in 2020. Now, according to a report by Bloomberg, also cited by China Daily, the upcoming talks could focus on reducing troop levels in the disputed border areas. That report quoted unnamed people. It is hard to say if that's indeed the case, but it is safe to say that even if Wang Yi and his Indian counterpart only manages to take a tiny step towards smoothing tensions on their long-running border dispute, we can take that as a giant leap towards regional peace. We are, after all, talking about 2 nuclear-armed powers. And even if there's no breakthrough in the border talks, so long there is no breakdown in the talks, then it means that India Prime Minister's trip to China next week would proceed as planned, and not upsetting that would be the most important thing on the table. However, Just to give you a sense of how low-key the media here is treating those upcoming talks, while we are watching the event very keenly here, Chinese media has been quite muted. Jill?
A final question to both you gentlemen, starting with Ishan first. Now, we know that both countries are under increasing U.S. trade pressure, especially over things like the purchase of Russian oil. How likely are they both to channel this kind of combined pressure into something that strengthens their ties?
Well, from New Delhi's perspective, one of the key benefits of having a robust relationship with China is, of course, trade. Now, India's trade with China has actually boomed by 50% in the past 5 years, but there is an opportunity for a lot more. Currently, this trade balance favors China, but India would like to see that balance shift in India's favor, which is why we've also seen many business communities in India calling for easing of Chinese investments in the country. So there is an area of opportunity for India to expand its trade ties and potentially reduce some reliance on U.S. exports, which are currently threatened by roughly 50% tariffs going into the U.S. But apart from that, we're also seeing a broader strategic shift in New Delhi's foreign policy. In the past few days, there have been speculations about New Delhi potentially reviving this dormant trilateral meeting format between Russia, India and China. And that could provide another opportunity for New Delhi to engage a lot more with Moscow and China. Now, it will be a question of balancing New Delhi's ties with its eastern partners as well as with its western partners. But that's just a diplomatic tightrope New Delhi might have to walk.
Guan?
Well, certainly facing a common issue is a pressure that's useful to push both countries together. Aside from that, both countries, as Ishan mentioned, also facing increased tariffs from the United States. Now, not taking into account trading blocs, the US is both India and China's largest trading partner. You could say that both nations now have added impetus to smooth tensions and to increase bilateral trade to make up for the fall in trade with the United States. After all, this sort of tension over their shared border is bad for trade. Now, even if Washington, D.C. isn't a factor, this year is better than any for both sides to kiss and make up. After all, it is the diamond anniversary or the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and India. And you can feel the keenness from both sides to mend ties, both from the frequency of meetings and the statements made. China's foreign minister met India's national security advisor in June, and then in July, he met India's foreign minister. Now, after both occasions, both sides expressed readiness to make use of the opportunities presented by the anniversary to deepen cooperation and to maintain peace. And on Thursdays, China's foreign ministry spokesperson also said that China stands ready to work with India to cement mutual trust, practical cooperation, and properly handle differences. Now, these are all clear signs of a keenness to improve Sino-India relations. Jill?
Both sides of China-India relations there with Ishan Garg from New Delhi, Tanyu Guan in Shanghai. Thank you both.